Hi and welcome to another video in my Photoshop Essential Skills series. Now in part 1 of this two-parter, what we looked at is 3 different methods for creating monotone images. Now in this video I'm going to take one of those, which is the gradient map, and I'm going to see how far I can get in creating a compelling monotone image out of this image here. So don't forget, if you're a fan of the printed page, I have created an ebook with all the steps in that we're going to be using today, and that's available for you to download from my website. All you've got to do, look underneath the video and click on a link and it'll take you to my website where you can download the ebook. Okay then, let's get started. Now I can hear you all calling and saying, well, just send it to Silver Effects. One click, job done. And that's true. It's certainly a simple solution, and Silver FX is a great piece of software. But I'm more interested in delving under the hood of Photoshop a little bit and trying to figure out how to do it manually. So that's the object of the video today. Now, first step is I want to create a little bit of character in the colour image before we take it into black and white. And I'm going to do that with a high pass filter. So first I'm going to duplicate the layer, and I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut of Ctrl and J, and then I'll rename this layer High Pass. And then I'm going to desaturate this, and I can do that by going up to the image menu and adjustments and desaturate, or I can use a keyboard shortcut Shift Ctrl and U, and that takes all the colour and distraction out. And now I'm going to run the high pass filter on it, which is a sharpening filter. I'm going to go up to my filter menu, down to other, and I'm going to select high pass. Now what I want to do with this is just have it the radius so that I've got a little bit of the detail showing through. I don't want it too much because it just starts breaking down and we get quite a horrible look. I think around the 4 pixels, something of that nature, is going to get us the effect that we want. And then I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that this is sitting on the top of the stack, so I now need to blend it with the image underneath it. And I'm going to do that with a blend mode. And my blend mode of choice for this is hard light. And that really gives it a little bit of punch, puts a little bit of detail back in there. Yep, I do like that. Now step 2, I want to create a stamp visible layer at the top of the stack. So I just need to make sure that my top layer is active, and then I'm going to use the finger mash. And this is a lot of keys you've got to press down at one time. But I'm going to hold down the Control, the Alt, the Shift, and then I'm going to press the E key. And that's going to stamp up both these together and flatten them down and put them as a new layer at the top of the stack. I'm going to call this one, we'll rename this and we'll call it Gradient Map. Okay. Now we're going to create a black and white gradient map using the Gradient Map adjustment layer. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layers panel, and I know you can't see it, it shoots off the bottom, and I'm going to select Gradient Map, and that's going to bring up the Gradient Map properties. And you can see that it's put a layer on the top, so I've got a gradient layer now, an adjustment layer on the top of the stack. Now I'm going to go into the gradient strip here and click on it, and that's going to bring up my gradient editor. Now I want a black and white. These are all the presets that come shipped with Photoshop, and the one I want is the third one along, which is my black and white one. So I'm just going to click on that to make sure that's the one that's active. Now you can see it's got a pretty nice effect, and what it's doing is it's blending this gradient, this black and white gradient, into the tones of the image. And we do have a little bit of control over what we do with it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on one of these paint stops, the colour stops at the bottom, and there you'll get this little diamond appear in the middle, and this is where the centre point is, and we can move that. So if I click on it and drag it over and let go, you can see the effect, and I'll drag it back and let it go. Now sometimes what you can do, if you just accidentally click at the side, you'll put another paint stop in. If that happens, just click it and drag it off at the bottom, and then click again, and then just move this till you get an image that you think looks quite dynamic. I'm quite liking that. I'm loving the detail in the beard and in the hair. Okay, I'm going to click OK to that, and I think we're cooking with gas. Now step 4, next step is really, when I look at this, I think his eyes are a little bit dead. Let's just zoom in a little bit. I'll have a look. Yeah, they're a little bit lifeless. I'd like to lighten his eyes up a little bit. Now to do that, I need another stamp visible layer on the top. So I'm going to use my finger mash again, my Control Alt Shift and E, and that's going to drop me a compressed layer on the top of the stack. And I'm going to rename this Eyes. Okay, next I want to make a selection of the eyes because I want to put them on a separate layer so I can adjust them. So my tool of choice this time is the Quick Mask tool. Now it's down at the bottom of the tools panel, down at the bottom here under your foreground and background colours. But first what I'm going to do is just change one of the presets. So I'm going to double click it first, and it brings up my Quick Mask options. And I just want to make sure that selected areas has got that radio button ticked. Leave everything else as it is and click OK, and then I'm now in Quick Mask mode. Now basically there is a keyboard shortcut for it, which is really good, which is the Q key. So you can come in and out of Quick Mask mode with the Q key, and this little dot means that I'm in it. If it's got a little dotted line, that means it's not in the Quick Mask mode. So I'll go into Quick Mask mode. I've got to make sure that black and white are set as my foreground colours, and I can do that with the D key and then the X key if I need to toggle it. So I'll leave it as black and white like that, and I'm going to get a paintbrush. I'm going to get a paintbrush that's about the right size. I'll zoom in a little bit more with Control and Plus, maybe a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to start painting. And what you'll see is a big red blob of paint. Now you're not actually painting with red. What we're doing is this is showing you where the mask is, where we're going to be masking out. And this is really cool if you like, if you struggle a little bit with your selections and you like painting a selection on, this is the tool for you, and this is the Quick Mask mode. Now once I've isolated the areas that I want to isolate, then I'm going to go back to my Q key, and it now brings it up as a selection. You can see the marching ants. And what I want to do now is jump that selection to a new layer. And I'm going to do that with the keyboard shortcut again of Control and J. And you can see now that I've got the eyes. You can only see them little, but you see I've got the eyes now on a separate layer. And that's cool, that's where I want to be. Now I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer at the top of the stack. So I'm going to go down to my adjustment layers icon, and I'll select curves. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lighten these eyes up. So if I just push that up a little bit, you'll see that everything's lightening. And that's good, but I'm just looking at the eyes at the moment. I just want to get the eyes in a position that I think are pretty good. That's okay. And now what I'm going to do is clip these layers together with a clipping mask, so that then this adjustment, it only affects the pixels underneath it, which is the eyes. And to do that, I'm going to hold the Alt key down, and if you hover over the join between them, you can get that little symbol there. Or another way, you can go to the layer menu and down to create clipping mask, and there's a keyboard shortcut as well, Alt, Control and G. While I'm here, I might as well click it. And what I've done is I've clipped those two layers together now. So now whatever I do on here will only happen to the eyes. And I just want to liven them up a little bit. I don't want to go nuclear. I just want to liven them up just a little bit. Maybe something like that. That's cool. And next I think I'm going to sharpen the eyes a little bit. So I need to click back on the eyes layer, which is where the actual pixels for the eyes are. And then I'm going to the filter menu and we'll try Smart Sharpen. And I'm going to leave everything as it is. I'm just going to play about with the amount slider. Now I found that if there was nothing, the eyes were quite soft. At around 140, 150, I got a little bit of detail coming back into the eyes, as we sharpen it up a little bit. Yeah, probably leave it somewhere like that. And I'll click OK. And then I'll zoom out a bit, Control and minus, to see how I'm doing. And I'll just turn that on and off to see. So that's where we started and that's where we finished. Yeah, I think that's the eyes are the windows to the soul, I think, something like that. So I'm quite pleased with that anyway. I like that. Now, next step, I'd like to take it even further and add a little bit more detail. And for that, I'm going to use a command called Shadows and Highlights. And for that, I need another layer, another stamp visible layer. So I'm going to click on the top layer to make sure that's active. And then I'm going to use Control, Alt, Shift and E to create my stamp visible layer on the top. And we'll call this one Shadows Highlights. Oh, and I forgot, I'll just go down and rename that to say Eyes Selection. It's always a good habit to get into to rename your layers. Okay, so I'm back to my Shadows Highlights at the top. And now I'm going to go to the command. So I'm going to go to the Image menu and Adjustments and Shadows Highlights. And you'll see that that immediately gives you a boom, a little bit of a pop, maybe a little bit too much, but that I can play about with my mid-tone slider, and I'm liking that, and the shadows, so I can make it lighten or I can darken it. I'd like to darken it a little bit. Highlights, I'll just tweak that a little bit. It does add a little bit of grunge to it, certainly. And maybe pull that back a little bit more. Okay, I'm liking that. And then I'm going to click OK. Okay, I'm nearly there, but I've noticed a couple of distracting things that I'd like to try and correct. And the first is there's a lot of these little white bits. I don't know whether it says a chain or something around it, but they're really distracting. So I'm going to get rid of them. I'm on the Shadows Highlights layer, and I'll just use the Clone Stamp tool. So I'll just Alt and click, select a dark area and cover these up. That's a bit better. Now the next thing is that it's distracting me a little bit. The jacket on this side I think is a little bit bright. I'd like to be the focal point and the brightest part to be his face. So I'm going to darken that down a little bit. And for that I'm going to use a curves adjustment again. So I'm going to go down to the adjustment and I'm going to select curves. But this time, instead of lightening, I'm going to darken, and I'm going to bring that down. And I'm just looking at the jacket now. I'm not bothered about the face, but I'm just looking at what the jacket looks like. And I think that looks a little bit better. I've got some detail in it, but it's a little bit darker. Now the mask, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to invert the mask. Now you can use the keyboard shortcut Control and I, or if you click on the mask, there is actually a handy little invert button. And that'll turn it into a black mask. So that's a hide all mask. So basically I've hidden the adjustment. So now I'm going to get my paintbrush. I'm going to make sure white's my foreground colour. I'm going to get a bit bigger paintbrush, something like that. And then I'm just going to paint in around the area of this jacket. And what I'm doing now is I'm masking back in that adjustment where I darkened it. And you can see on the mask that I'm just masking that back into that darkened adjustment underneath. And I think we're nearly done. Let's just have a look where we've come. Okay, I've got quite a few layers in the layers panel here. So I'll see if I can get them all on the screen. And then I'll just look at a before and after. Now I'm going to do this by if I hold the Alt key down and click the eyeball on the background layer. So that's where we started. Not bad colour image, but for me fairly uninteresting. And now we've got a really grungy, scrunchy, however you want to call it, monotone image that I really like much better. It's much more engaging. Well, for me. Well, that's it for this video. My take on creating compelling monotone images. I do hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up or leave a comment under the video. Or please feel free to share it around with friends. Don't forget to check out the More area underneath the video for a download link to download the free ebook that accompanies this video with all these steps in the printed page. And please click the subscribe button at the end so when I upload a new video you are the first to know. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.